Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on Doordarshan, India's national television channel about Indian foreign policy, India's international relations, and also global developments that have an impact on India's security and economy. Viewers, in this episode, we are taking up a very grave situation in the Middle East or West Asia, which is the Israel-Hamas war. This conflict has massive implications not only for India but for the region and the world at large, and we are going to be talking about all the potential ramifications of this armed conflict and with a focus on India's interests. And to discuss this, let me introduce you to a special guest joining me from Israel, Nina Slama. Nina Slama is a researcher at Reichman University in Israel, in Herzliya, Israel, and a noted commentator and writer on India-Israel relations. Nina, welcome to Indian Diplomacy. Thank you for joining the show in a difficult time.
Thank you, Professor Chaulia.
Nina, the war came unexpectedly, but it's becoming bigger and bigger as we speak. Just the scale and the intensity of the conflict. And so, how are you and your near ones and dear ones coping with this, totally unprecedented condition where you've had a traumatic armed assault and invasion by Hamas into Israel, killing more than 1,200 Israelis? Just the scale, the brutality, and the shock value of this has really moved all of us around the world. Our commiserations and condolences to you, first of all. But how are you all coping in this extreme environment?
So we are very worried. We are horrified by the visuals that are coming out on social media and other platforms showing the atrocities and that Hamas terrorist organization is inflicted on the people of Israel. They killed, tortured, burned, beheaded, and dragged people from their homes to the Gaza Strip. And now we have also captives, more than 150 people that are captives, not only from Israel, but also from other countries in the world. We have more than 30 people from 30 nationalities that are captives there, and we don't know whether they are alive, whether they are injured, whether they are critically injured or not. And this is a very worrisome situation. We are horrified, we are terrorized. But I can assure you, Professor Chaulia, that the people of Israel is strong, the people of Israel is resilient, is united, and Israel shall prevail.
Israel shall prevail. Nina, the security dimension, of course, is now paramount to retaliate and to try and curb the Hamas menace. But then how are Israelis as a society? Because you said you are united now, but the narrative of last few years has been of a lot of internal divisions, polarization between left and right, and so many elections and instability. And it looks like the terrorists also took advantage of this disorganized condition. But now nothing like a crisis, isn't it? I mean, Israel is no stranger to crisis. You've had so many wars since the creation in 1948. So could you say that this crisis has really left the old divisions aside, and is it a new chapter, a new era? Definitely a new era in terms of the region, but for Israeli society and for your family and relatives, I mean, are they all now looking at this as the beginning of something different and decisive?
In time of war, we have to understand that all the Israelis are coming together to take aside all differences that might have been between them. Even the government established an emergency government. All the parties are coming together in order to confront this unprecedented threat from the Hamas terrorist organization. We have to understand that we have no time to discuss about divisions or about other issues that might have been important until this war erupted. Now we are focused on annihilating the threat of Hamas, restore security and stability in Israel. I can tell you that people are very united. They are coming together and being involved in acts of solidarity, collecting food, giving blood, collecting equipment for civilians and soldiers that are employed in southern Israel. And these acts of solidarity strengthen us as a society and make sure that we can confront this threat in the best way we can.
Yeah, and Nina, you of course study, you're into political science and international relations. Now, in this region, there are different reactions to what has happened, and we don't know yet how this new war is going to end up. So, is there also some sense of uncertainty and a sense of the unknown? Because unlike the previous wars with Hamas in 2008 and 2014, this one is going to be a lot bigger, simply because the scale of the attack they carried out on October 7 was so big. So, is there also some sense of vulnerability while you are strong? Is there also some doubt or fear about what is coming next? And that's natural, especially when a country is at war.
Yes, there is a lot of uncertainty and challenges ahead that we will have to address. But we know that Israel is getting a lot of support for our good friends and allies throughout the world. The support is unequivocal, the support is strong, and this is what allows us to confront this threat and be sure that we have allies that have our back. This gives us a lot of strength, this gives us a lot of confidence that we are not alone in this war. Israel was not the only one who was attacked in this war, but humanity as a whole. The basic values of humanity were attacked. This is why Israel is getting such an unequivocal support. And this is something which is important to bear in mind. So we of course are very worried, but we are also very hopeful. This is something that characterized the Jewish people as it suffered so many challenges and so many atrocities during its history.
Absolutely. And in fact, Nina, I was hearing President Biden, the US president, saying that October 7th was the single worst day for Jewish people in terms of mass casualties since the Holocaust. So it's quite unbelievable, the scale of the attack and how it happened. But anyway, moving on to the international reaction, let's now see a sample of different countries and how they have responded to the October 7 attacks and Israel's right to defend itself, how there is variation in it. Let's watch this video clip, viewers, and continue the discussion.
Israel has the right to defend itself and its people, full stop. There's never justification for terrorist attacks. And my administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering.
So viewers, you can see how different countries have responded to this mega crisis in West Asia or the Middle East. And Nina, we just saw Western countries very much firmly and unequivocally in support of Israel. India also saying, we are totally against terrorism in all its forms and we stand with the people of Israel. But then we have Qatar, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Oman, quite a few countries in the region who are saying that the real issue is the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people and that should be addressed. So, and some in the case of the Iranians, of course, they are very close to Hamas. They have been patrons of Hamas since inception, and they have even said that they kissed the hands of those who carried out the attacks on October 7. So I'd just like you to reflect on this dual positions here. And obviously Israel always has the back of the US. US has consistently supported it, and President Biden is firmly in favor. He's offering military assistance as well. But then if you look at the region, Israel is becoming stronger and stronger diplomatically with the Abraham Accords and a lot of the Arab countries starting to recognize Israel. But the goal of this attack, presumably one of the goals, was to prevent this normalization of Israel's ties with the more moderate countries. So your thoughts on whether this attack and the Israeli response, which is going to be quite overwhelming on Gaza, whether this is in any way going to turn the clock back to an earlier era when there was a so-called Islamic world completely opposed to the Jewish state? Or do you think that there is room still for the normalization process to go forward? In other words, what I'm asking you is this Hamas, Iran and Hezbollah, the axis of resistance, so to say, have they succeeded in creating, once again, polarizing the Islamic world against Israel? And do you think Israel has a strategy? Of course, they are now focused on the war and on blunting Hamas, but there is also this geopolitical positioning and the balance in the region that is at stake.
We have to understand that the main goal of Hamas is to bring to the total destruction of Israel. They are declaring it, it is written in their charter, and they are collaborating with other state and non-state actors in the region. We are talking about Hezbollah, about Iran, and about other actors that are part of the axis of terror in this region. Now we have to understand that for many years, Israel was considered as a source of problem in the region. But in recent years, we saw that Israel became one solution to many challenges that West Asia and other regions are confronted to. Israel is always ready to extend its hand to peace. We saw it in the past when it signed a peace agreement with Egypt in 1979 and with Jordan in 1994. And most recently, signing the Abraham Accords in 2020 with the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. So Israel is for peace. Israel is extending its hand for peace. And there were always also, as you mentioned, Professor Chaulia, the talks and negotiations about normalizing relations with Saudi Arabia. The current war in Israel can maybe slow down this process, but we have to understand that the dynamics in the region changed. We're not talking about Israel as an isolated country in the region, but as a partner, as a real and a reliable partner in the region. Those who are supporting Hamas are supporting terror, are supporting terrorism and barbarism, not only in the region, but in the entire world. How can one support their acts? We're talking about slaughtering, beheading, dragging forcefully and brutally people from their homes during the Jewish day of rest of Shabbat, which is celebrated each and every Saturday, during a Jewish festival of Simchat Torah. And as I told you, the images are horrific. So those who are supporting Hamas are supporting terror, are supporting barbarism and inhumanism. Those who are supporting Israel are supporting moral, are supporting peace, and are supporting prosperity, not only in the region, but in the entire world.
I agree with you, Nina. But then, the anti-Israel group of countries or non-state actors, they say that it's not about Hamas, it's about 5.2 million Palestinians living in the West Bank and in Gaza, and because inevitably Israel's response is going to be overwhelming, there will be a lot of civilian casualties, and so therefore Israel, they would like to frame this as part of the the historical problem over the territorial dispute and the access to the holy city of Jerusalem, and those sort of emotional issues for both Jewish and Muslim people. So it's in that context how I think Israel will need a diplomatic strategy here, right? I mean, one is to obviously try and completely disarm and defeat Hamas, which is going to be difficult. But on the other hand, to avoid being seen to be antagonizing a lot of countries with whom it is now actually building closer relations. So this is a difficult balancing act, isn't it? Do you think Israel has a strategy for this?
So first of all, we have to understand that Israel is combating not only physically in Gaza, but also in other fronts. We are talking about the psychological front, the information front, the diplomatic front, and so forth. Now, we have to understand that Hamas is not taking care of its own population. It's using its population as human shields. When Israel is attacking Gaza, they are warning the population in Gaza to leave a certain area in order not to be affected by airstrikes and other combats in this area. Because we are a moral army. The IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, is a moral army. But sadly and tragically, they are not only targeting, Hamas, a terrorist organization, is not only targeting Israelis, but also their own population, making sure that there are uninvolved people and innocent people and civilians of Gaza in areas that are struck by Israel. What we can do when missiles are deployed in schools, in libraries, in hospitals, the only thing that we can do is warn the population that is employed there and that is residing there in order not to harm them. But we really are in a very difficult situation. And our heart also cries for the innocent civilians, Palestinians that are residing in Gaza. But we have also have to make sure that the threat of Hamas is diminished.
Absolutely. So it's going to be difficult and arduous, says Nina Salama, viewers, and certainly Israel is in a kind of a position which no country would want to be, because it is facing major national security challenge across its borders, but at the same time is looking to become quote unquote more mainstreamed into the region. Viewers, coming to India now, India-Israel, we have a strong strategic partnership, and I'd like you to hear what the Israeli ambassador to India had to say after we took a position on the October 7 attacks. Let's hear the Israeli ambassador and continue the discussion.
We are heartfelt from the huge support we got from India, from the Prime Minister, through a few ministers who called me, businessmen, civil servants, just people from the street. Our social media is full of people who are showing their support, and we appreciate it. We appreciate it very strongly. I'll tell you why. Because India, first of all, is a very important country in the world. But secondly, India comes from a position of a country who knows terrorism. So it comes from a point of knowledge and not of ignorance. And for that, we are very much thankful. And again, Israel needs only the moral and political support. The work on the ground, we know how to do it. But we need to have the ability to execute the plan in order to make sure that Hamas will not threaten anyone else again.
So viewers, you just heard the Israeli ambassador to India saying India is a very important country for Israel and that they really value India's moral and diplomatic support in this extreme crisis. Going back to Nina Slama. Nina, you have been a researcher and analyst of India-Israel relations for a long time, and obviously this kind of incident will further strengthen their cooperation. We have been doing a lot of security and counterterrorism and intelligence sharing cooperation over the years. So on that front, I think we are pretty good, and I think we will want to continue from where it started. You remember during the Mumbai attacks of 2008, and how it was a similar style attack carried out by jihadists coming from Pakistan, and ever since I think the scale of our cooperation has increased. So this war, whatever be the broader ramifications, I think from the bilateral point of view, we will see strengthened India-Israel relations, isn't it?
Of course, India and Israel are strategic partners and very close friends. The unequivocal support of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Israel was very heartwarming. We know that India stands by Israel, that India is here for Israel, and that India is ready to help Israel in this difficult time. Of course, that the relations will continue to strengthen and be enlarged. And what is beautiful about these relations is to see how the people-to-people connections and relations are strong. I can tell you that on a personal note, I'm receiving many messages and phone calls for friends and colleagues in India that are very worried about what is going on here in Israel. We feel a real sense of friendship, a real sense of solidarity from our brothers and sisters in India. And it is very heartwarming. India and Israel that have strong relation on the bilateral level, but also on the multilateral level. We are talking about many engagements, regional and other engagements that India and Israel are part of. Following the Abraham Accords, there is the I2U2 alliance that was forged between India, Israel, the UAE, and the United States. The main goal of this alliance is to bring to peace and stability and prosperity to West Asia and other regions, to make the possibility to have a connectivity between the countries, to have an open dialogue and a proactive dialogue which will bring to the stability in the region. These relations are not only confined to defense and security issues. We are talking about other issues that are also part of the national interests of the countries today, as food security, agriculture, water management, climate change. And this is what is so important about these relations. Relations that are strong, are based on a real friendship. And even when there were no relations between India and Israel before 1992, Israel always stood by India, as it was against China in 1962 and Pakistan in 1965 and 1971. So our relations go back even when we didn't have any relations, which just shows the depth and the strong relations that these countries share.
Absolutely. Nina, last word. You know, India prefers that all the dyads, the conflicted dyads in the region should cooperate so that we can have access, like for example, the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, and you mentioned I2U2. I mean, historically, for other reasons, we have ties with Iran, and we would prefer that Iran and Israel get along. We would prefer that Saudi Arabia and Israel get along. We would prefer the UAE and Israel get along. and we would hope that the animosities. India has also mentioned that we are in favor of resumption of negotiations for some kind of settlement with the Palestinians also, because the war in itself cannot be a solution, right? I mean, there have been so many wars, and they will ultimately need to have some kind of a settlement without Hamas, but with the Palestinian people. So your closing thoughts on this juncture in the history of your country, and what more India can do for you?
So first of all, we have to understand that West Asia is a very combustible region. There are many uncertainties and challenges, unpredicted ones, that we might face in the future. And what is important is to continue and have this dialogue between the countries that are ready to promote peace, to promote stability, and to promote prosperity in the region. Because this country will lead to the stability of the region. This country will have the possibility to change the course of this region. And this is why it is so important to have more and more countries that supporting not only Israel, but supporting the stability of the region and the possibility to have open dialogues in order to bring to peace. And as I mentioned earlier, Israel is always ready to extend its hand for peace. This is our main goal in this region, in the region of West Asia.
Thank you, Nina. Viewers, what we are hearing from our expert from Israel is that it's a very uncertain and a very traumatic period for Israel in its recent history, but at the same time they are determined to try and wipe out terror, which is going to be an arduous task. But also Israel is interested in open dialogue and peace and stability in the region, because ultimately the war alone cannot resolve the long-standing historical disputes and problems. So we hope there is also a negotiated end to these troubles in the region. We hope, Nina, you and your dear ones remain safe. So our wishes from India that the relationship goes forward. I want to thank you. I've run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us on Indian Diplomacy.
Thank you, Professor Chaulia.
So viewers, India and Israel relationship is going to continue to go to higher levels as a result of this enormous tragedy that Israel has faced. But at the same time, there's a lot of threading of the needle that we will have to do, because we have separate relationships with many other players in the region. So let's keep an eye on the Israel-Hamas war, its outcome and the consequences. It's going to be earth-shaking. It's going to be a paradigm change, as the Israelis are saying. So how does India adjust to this? Always going to be difficult, but we are in those troubled times. I'll see you again next time. Until then, take care.